Welcome to Power Up Your Practice, the go-to podcast for law firm owners and managing attorneys working on the business, not in it. I'm Ruby Powers, your guide into the heart of law practice management, bringing your insights from leading legal minds, trailblazing attorneys, and expert guests who provide practical perspectives on running your firm more effectively and efficiently. And before we dive in, I'm thrilled to announce that my latest book, Power Up Your Practice, is out and available on Amazon. It's packed with actionable advice for growing a successful law firm. Be sure to grab your copy today. And don't forget to subscribe to our newsletter for exclusive tips and resources. And if you're enjoying this podcast, we love your reviews. They help us reach more attorneys like you who are striving to build the practice of their dreams. Prepare to open your mind, be inspired, and power up your practice to the next level. Welcome back, everyone. Excited to have Jen Goldman. She is a business operations transformer and integrator, a speaker, and a COO trainer. We met through some conferences and enjoyed conversing whenever we have the opportunity. So glad to have her on the podcast. And I think you can bring a lot of value to us law firm owners, managing attorneys, right-hand associates, and those who want to have their own firm, because you're passionate about improving small businesses to bring more help and success to their team, clients, and community. And so tell us a little bit more about yourself. I'm excited to have you on the episode today. Thanks, Jen.
Well, thank you for doing this. I think it's great. Anything that we can do to help, right? We're businesses ourselves. So a little background, a little fun. Buffalo Bills fan from Buffalo, New York. I live in Massachusetts now, not that that really matters. I'm a mom of two and a dog, and started business a little over 20 years ago. And before that, worked in larger businesses. So one might say I've been around the block.
Or in Texas, we'd say it's not my first rodeo, but one of the
or second or third. In fact, I just did a report. I think we've worked with over 665 businesses over the
Wow.
I totally didn't even know that. I had to rewrite my bio, and I was like, wait a minute, what? How did that happen? It's like when a parent says, how did the time fly? So yeah.
Wow. So you on your bio, you've worked with a lot of different industries, from health professionals, financial planners, accountants, education consultants, attorneys, a whole bunch of, and that sounds like you have a lot of experience. So I guess maybe before we begin, like, tell us a little bit more about like how you work and what you do.
Yeah, the sauce. Yeah. So basically, we look inside, or as one might say, lift the hood, right, of the business. How do you operate? What are your processes, your people? What's your goals, right? Like, why are you doing this? And usually it's obviously with the leaders and the owners. And then when we can see what they're doing, what their purpose is, what their goals are, and the tools that they have, I'm not going to say it's easy, because it's really hard for those businesses, but we're not emotionally attached, and we do this for a living. So then we put together a huge list of improvements. We decide on which ones are the ones to be prioritized, and then we lead the team and the leaders through the changes. So we're there. Think of us as holding your hand. At times we're soft nudging, and at all times we're checking for fatigue and burnout and lack of energy, to just, kind of reground back in. Why are you doing this, and where is this going to bring me? And again, it's all operational. We don't really touch leadership. We don't touch legal. We don't touch things like payroll or HR. This is all about changes across the board and really getting, I would just say, just having a great business, right? Like a great team that's energized and using your time wisely.
What is the average size, maybe in staff or I don't know, what would be your ideal client, like, that you can go in and make this change for?
Yeah. On stats wise, ideal is usually 5 to 50 employees. It doesn't matter whether they're hybrid, remote, or on site anymore. They're in the US mostly. They are open to change, right? There's that mindset of, listen, we know we need to do this. We need to make changes. I would say about 50% of the people on the team are tech literate, because there is tech illiteracy, just like anything else, right? And what else is there? I don't know, just a real openness and a willingness to be transparent with the team. I think that's all a bit about vulnerability. Is even the owners may not know how to do something, and the staff might. So they're okay with that.
You know, we're going to talk about like buy-in and getting for change, because there's, I don't know, my firm went through a huge tech stack shift with our case management software, and then it's created a ripple effect to a whole bunch of other things. And I'm swimming in operations right now, and I think that's a good point. Like, is that the best use of the CEO's time, and who should be doing it, and who has, how big are you to have like a COO, and and like I think a lot of times we might hide the role under like an office administrator or office manager, but maybe they are or not that good at it potentially. So what are some of the things that you see, and I don't know, some tips, or some of the things that like could be like quick fixes, maybe, if there is such a thing.
Well, we all want that, right?
Yeah, we all want that.
We all want that.
How we can
Instant
improve.
gratification. Yeah, the
Right.
dopamine kick. So the first thing I would say, it depends who's listening, right? If you're a bigger business, yes, the idea of having this integrator, COO, whatever you want to call them, person that pulls it all together and sequences and leads it, that's dreaming. It's great. And there's some businesses that's their ultimate goal. I would like to make enough revenue to be able to afford that person. Most businesses don't have the revenue. They don't have the bandwidth to onboard or find that person, and they wouldn't know how to manage them. And I basically believe that when you're a smaller business, that's why I call a virtual COO, a set of systems and processes and tech and like talking it out, that almost becomes kind of like your supportive COO until you're big enough to hire, or if you decide never to do so. So I don't know if I'm answering your question, but I don't always think it's right to hire a COO.
No, I've said it like on other episodes, like the whole challenge of being a business owner is, when do you do something yourself and when do you hire? And then it comes to like, well, who do I hire, and are they good at it, and can I afford that? And like a whole host of other questions. Like I sort of wanted to ask, and I'm just going to ask it. Like, the people who are like listening to this are like, well, why don't I just DIY what you do? And like what happens when people do that?
Yeah, the burnout. Okay, first off, to be fair, not everybody's brain works the same way.
Yeah,
So,
it's true.
If people ask me, like, what's your unique ability if you've been through strategic or something? And the unique ability is to be able to see all the different pieces, like a puzzle, right? And to see all the different pieces, to put them in the right places, in the right order. That is a lot of energy. I'm just going to be honest. So then it leaves you with very little energy to deal with your team or your clients, or go out and, basically bring on more business. Let's call it business development, right? So something's going to give when you turn your energy toward that. Now, I'm not saying you don't do that, but again, if it's really hard and it's taxing on your brain and you don't get enjoyment out of it, probably you're not going to get the best use of systems. You're not going to optimize your people, which therefore means you're going to hire more people than you need sometimes.
Yeah,
right?
that's
you're going to look at the system, right, and go, right, I spent all this money. Why isn't it doing what I thought it would do?
Right. I think that's a good that one sells me, because I think like there's a lot of times where like it's a combo of, we've always done it that way, or that's the way the program was, and then you throw in the new program and this new way and new people, and then you're like, and the value of like thinking outside the box and saying, is this the most efficient way of doing this? And is there a better way to do this? And I agree with you. Like, some people, operations is their jam, but like if it's not, or if it's not the best use of your time, like maybe you can stay high level and keep a big picture, but maybe not go in the nitty gritty, and make sure you go where, like someone said, like your area of genius is.
Yeah. I would say back to you too, when you get to stay high level, you get to monitor success better.
That's true.
It's hard to judge if you're in the weeds doing it. It's hard to turn around and go, how am I doing today? How is this working out? Are we on the right path with this? I do think it's hard. We get emotionally attached to our own accomplishments and forget to look at the bigger picture. So if you can afford it, if you see the value of using your time for other things, bigger opportunities, then that's where you should be. That should be your lane.
So when you come into a business, like what do you do? Like just start interviewing everybody and like those consultants on Office Space or something? And like, what do you do?
Yeah. And I'll talk because this is about getting buy-in to change. The minute we're there, we're already in that mode, right? Like the being open. So we automatically visualize every piece of the business we can. So let me give you an example. An easy one is technology. We literally do a chart, a map of all the pieces of software and what data is flowing from one to another. On the people, we do a responsibilities and role charts. Who has what authority, and then who has responsibilities, and then we give people the opportunity to say what they'd love to shed. They don't get to shed, but right away in the first month, we're giving them this breath because that's mostly what they need. They're overwhelmed. Maybe it's too much business coming in the door. Maybe there's too many confusing initiatives. And then the third piece is we visualize the list of everything that they want to accomplish, everything that we think they should work on, and it's done in priority form. So it's all visual. And the sauce behind it is when you do things visually, people do not freak out. They do not trigger the amygdala. The amygdala will trigger when you're verbally talking about something. But when you visualize it, it activates the prefrontal cortex, which is the calm, sane, rational brain. So we use that. And that's how we actually, in the first month, already start the change. People are starting to say and giving thumbs up, let's go, let's do this. I see the vision, I understand. That's how we get the buy-in.
So I have lots of questions here, but one of them is that whole shedding thing. So why do you do that? Like you're sort of like, if we grow and we can automate or we can hire someone else to do the thing, like what's the goal of that exercise of asking them what if they could shed something?
Yeah. One, it's to hear them because people naturally have pain points within business, whether it's an employee, an owner, a professional, a team, it doesn't matter what level. So you want to hear them first, because if you don't hear them, they won't listen to you. They won't listen to you. So that's a nice way of hearing in a controlled setting, right? Like it's very defined how you're putting it in the shed column. Two is other people on the team might have always wanted that responsibility. They've been probably begging for it and asking, like, empower me, give it to me, right? So when this is done all together in the transparent chart, by the way. So when one person writes it in the shed column, another person will be like, oh my God, it's my opportunity. And they get excited. So literally, we're talking about a change and somebody else wants it, bring it on, right? Like, so
it sounds like a win-win that you got lucky there. What if to shed the stuff that nobody wants to pick up?
Right, exactly, right? That somebody else wants. Now, we know the downside. The downside is something goes in the shed column and nobody wants it. But here's the upside. If you acknowledge it, it's like acknowledging the problem is half the solution. Now we can think about ways to eliminate it through automation, delegate it to somebody that doesn't exist yet. Maybe it's an interim provider. Maybe it's somebody already on your provider team. Maybe it's somebody in the office that maybe doesn't want it, but might learn from it. So it's an interim move for them to take it on before then it's eliminated or outsourced. So again, it's a win-win-win if we're allowed to use the cliche.
Yeah, I think it's fun when you can use it. I like it. It's not that often that it applies.
No,
so.
Not at all. Not at all. But it's that chain effect, right?
Yeah.
It's the chain effect of knowing when you start there, then you move on. And all of a sudden it's with the right person in the right seat doing the right thing.
That's true. So what are other ways people can get buy-in for this change? Because I mean, I feel like, I think I have a pretty good team who's willing to do change, but there were some grumblings and the tech stack change and that whole ripple effect. And then like AI, all this stuff. And then like, we're about to go into a different way for law. Immigration is going to be changing. There's like change, like the only constant is change. So like, what are your best
you're going in for drastic change. I mean, to be fair, things that are out of your control, but you need to adjust with as well. I will say this, I'm so huge in that visualization. The business planning, when you decide there's something you want to pursue, I don't believe you should hold it back in your own head. And I don't believe you shouldn't share it with the team. Now, some people will say, if you share too much with the team before you decide on it, they get confused. I'm sorry, that's old school. You share and you put it in a class. Like, let me try to visualize this for you. Think of a chart. You list the top 10 things you would like to do or you dream of.
Mm-hmm.
And then you say, this is in the parking lot. It's sitting there.
Uh-huh.
Next step is to turn the car on and drive it out to a destination. But right now it's in the parking lot. Now the team knows well in advance that something's coming.
Uh-huh.
It's not decided upon yet. So by the time you decide, they've actually had time to think about it and get comfortable.
Yeah, I could see
Then
that.
you add something to this parking lot idea. I use my hands, I'm very Italian, sorry. You add the benefit. What's the benefit of doing this? Is it, maybe it's profitability for those hopefully in your team understand that that could mean better compensation. Maybe it's more time. Everybody has more time. You write 3 to 5 words of what the benefit will be, and that sticks in their mind because they've seen it and they see it over and over. So like in some businesses, if you're on site, whiteboards in the hallways are the hot thing. If you're hybrid or remote, then people are using boards like Asana or Lucid. There's all sorts of online. You know this because you're really good in this, where you can write this out.
Yeah. No, I agree. Like even in my sort of related, my consultations, I like to have a handout, whether I'm on the phone or Zoom or in person, because I know people learn differently. But the way you described the importance of how people, because you could be saying to them something, but then some of it registers, some of it doesn't. But if they see it also at the same time, there's something tactile potentially. I feel like it helps register, and you're trying to accomplish a lot in a short period of time. And get that information across. And so I found a lot of value in that. And I once had a consultant gazillion years ago, and we were doing like swim lanes of all of all the operations, and we got little Post-it notes and stuff. It was sort of fun. And I was like, oh, look at the bottleneck. Oh no, how do we rewrite the model? And everyone got involved. And it was like, oh, that's how it works. And even today I was on a CRM call with a consultant. We were walking through automations, and I was like starting to, get focus on my like C++ days in like high school or something. And I was like, ooh, we should start. I was like having fun, like if this and then that. And I was like, ooh, but oh wait, just kidding. I can't do that. I have to go practice law. But like, it was fun though, because I was like geeking out in the operations a bit. But I do think it's important for the team to see that like, I know enough to have a conversation about it. I know enough to
you know what? You know more than that, but you know how to lead it in a productive way. I think that's the point of like, how do you manage your team while going through change and working with clients and bringing in business? I mean, let's be honest. The day, every day, is multiple different parts of what you need to do, especially as a leader or an owner. So what you just said though is the visualization actually puts it on everyone else, keeps them calm, so you can step away and switch hats.
Right.
That's all that the swim lanes are. That's all that the whiteboards are. I mean, sticky note, all of those things. It's all visuals. And by the way, kudos to you because you don't even know the science behind some of it. Most people don't. And I didn't even until a couple years ago. I'm like, why does this work? And now neuroscience is really catching up. But most people are visual learners. That's why video and drawing and all that works. And most of us have the same reaction to visuals versus auditory. So you're right. It totally works. It makes managing easier. And what's really cool, I love this, is when the staff start communicating back to you in the same way.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I was just thinking like I need 1 or 2 people on the team that are like they know the CRM really well so they can go in and fix things, or I need one or two people who know the case management really well. Even if we hire a consultant, to occasionally tweak things, like we still need some in-house. So we're not just twiddling our thumbs, waiting for the next call or waiting for them to fix the thing, and I feel like so much of operations is there's a lot of tech involved than before when I remember starting the firm. And also going back to the visualization, like a lot of times people got so excited because they're like, I have everything written down, everything that happens in the firm. But what I've seen with some of my business owner friends is like, I'm not just lawyers, but all different types. It's like they have stuff written down, but it's like a set it and forget it. Nobody else is looking at it. It's so arcane and like verbose that nobody wants to touch it. And nobody has any clue where it is or when it was last updated. And I agree with you. Like I joke, like nobody reads anymore, even though I've written 2 books, whatever. It's more about video. Like, yeah, exactly. Audible. Yeah. Well, it's in the work in progress eventually, but yeah, like it's video, it's audio, like, even this podcast, we provide it in different ways for people. So, or they could read the transcript if they wanted to, I guess,
You know what it is? And now I'm going to date myself. We had Cliff Notes growing up, right? It was.
Why doesn't everybody know what that is? Like I say that every once in a while.
It's our age. Okay, so this is the younger member. It's called Spark now. They call it Spark.
Really?
It's the same thing.
Oh, okay. I think I heard that, but I didn't know what that was. Okay.
Yeah. Well, that's the picture is, right? Think about it. Like when you are visualizing for a client, like if you do this, then that happens, right? Or this is the list of choices that you have. That's all just visualization, but it's a Cliff Notes. It's a 1-pager. That's what people want. First of all, attention spans are down to 1 second. I mean, we grew up in the age where we had like, I think 10 seconds, then it went to 3 seconds. Now it's down to 1 second. There's nothing else you can do except visualize in 1 second. That's all you've got with somebody to capture their attention and then to bring them into the discussion. So I guess my point too is we can talk about affecting change internally. Most people listening are working with clients where we're pitching a change. Maybe it's a change in what they put in their coffee. Maybe it's a change in what they're going to do with their legal affairs. Whatever it is, it's a change. How do we get them to agree too? So using the tools internally actually helps you flip around and use them with clients and prospects.
Well, I'm like all ears. What are other things you do to get that buy-in or other, because I think also it does take some strong leadership to see the overarching big picture and then try to get people like charged. We're going to do this together, everyone, and it's for I'm thinking like ADCAR, I'm thinking like some of those other things, like, we're all doing this together. It's the reasons why. And honestly, this whole, like the span of a year or so that we were scoping out case management, we chose which one, we started onboarding. And then it wasn't like day one we got to use it that everything was done. No, there was a lot of things we had to fix and created like a domino effect. And, just having to, and then as the leader, you can't just be like, use this program. Like you have to know how to use it.
Yeah, you do too, right?
Right.
Let's put it this way. You can call it state of the company, state of the union, a company meeting, retreat. I don't care what it is, but I would say when you're going through intense changes every 6 months, you need to like get grounded. It's a slide deck. It's here's where we were, here's where we are today. And by the way, here's some things we want to look at for the future.
Yeah, no, I agree. And this is the beginning of 2025 where there's going to be a State of the Union sometime soon. I'm thinking, make your own State of the Union for your business and be like, this is what's happening. I try to.
That's right. Well, it's not that many pages. We don't have to set the bar so high, right?
Right.
There are certain elements in it. Just put them in there and use that every 6 months. You're golden, and let the team fill it in. Why do you need to, as the leader and owner?
Right. Yeah. Get their buy-in and get their feedback and help them. It's like when I do a law firm retreat and we evaluate, the issues and we go through our rocks and our strategy, and then we I was just looking at some old notes. I had like a white piece of paper, we wrote on it like a big sticky, and I was like, dorky. I kept it. It's like 4 or 5 years old. And I was just like, oh yeah, that's right. I think this whole case management software shift and some things are going on. It just was sort of hard to keep up with everything, but I definitely think those like sit down, evaluate and retreats or review and have leadership and see how you can improve are so important. Well, before we continue, we're going to run a small message from one of our sponsors, and we'll continue with more advice on how to get buy-in and improve your management. Are you feeling overwhelmed by administrative, marketing, or other legal tasks? Well, you're not alone. Many lawyers are in the same boat. They're trying to build up their firm, and they're trying to figure out how to get help to do so. So that's where Staffy comes in. So over 90 law firm owners, just like you, have turned to Staffy for help with their legal, administrative, marketing, and client-facing work. Staffy's mission is to help lawyers find balance while growing their firm with bilingual virtual staff and full HR support. And they take the hassle out of the team management and focus on what matters most, your clients and your practice. I've personally benefited from multiple staff support with about 8 virtual assistants over the last few years with my 2 businesses, including my law firm, Powered Law Group. Now schedule a free consultation with Staffy. It's stafi.cc, and you can use the code RUBY, that's RUBY, for a $500 off coupon. So continuing on how to get buy-in and working with change and just like even the whole operations, like, I mean, I'm all ears, because it's like, I don't know, I'm about to hit the busy season, and I'm not going to have time to really think about the operations. And I need to make sure things are running smoothly. Anyway, what other advice do you have for people listening?
Yeah, I'll give you a couple tips that we do, and these could be done with small businesses. I mean, if it's just you and you, this could be a little difficult. So I do feel for you. Believe me, I've been there. We do team meetings, right? Everybody talks about it. Let's have a meeting in the meeting. Okay. Well, first of all, let's have a meeting on the same time every week. Let's try to stick to that. That just for sake of sanity. But in team meetings, what I see is the leaders and owners are running the whole meeting. And I'm thinking, don't do that. Like, have an outline, follow it every week, and let somebody else present each portion. Introverts, extroverts, quiet people, loud people, let them do it. And then as the leader, you get to take in the information, you get to take in the data, you get to comment, but what you're doing is empowering them, number one. Number two, let's be honest, you're delegating the hoofing work to putting together the meeting, right? So I would like to see more of that. And because I'm an ops geek, using your systems and screen sharing. So I'm going to go right back around to visualization. If you have a system, let's just use the basic in law, right? Clio. There's a way to see all the open tasks. Don't talk about it. Just put it up on the screen and take a breath break for 2 seconds and let everybody soak it in. Then talk about, okay, what's bottlenecking? How can we solve this? And then move on to another report. So I encourage people to have all this up on their screens before they go into a meeting, like 2 minutes before. So the meeting flows, it's a team effort, and the leader gets to actually breathe and make some observations. So back to you when you said, it's a lot, I'm doing all these changes, right? I'm leading all this and do it. Well, then why do you have to run the meeting?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I agree. We had a couple of pre-meetings for this like CRM consultant meeting we had earlier today. And I was really happy because every department that was impacted by it pretty much had a pre-meeting, pre-gamed it, I guess you could say, and like consolidated down to what the issue truly was. And then we had this long list of all the stuff, and I was like, there's no way we're going to cover this in 1 hour. And we didn't. It was like an hour and a half, but we were like, boom, boom, boom. And, and I mean, I hope everyone was paying attention. I mean, it was over Zoom and everything, but like, I was really learning a lot. And we get the recording, and then you get the little Fathom summary, or, there's so many different ways now that didn't really exist like a few years ago that's becoming more commonplace. But I agree with you on that whole getting more buy-in from your team, and like just because you're a leader doesn't mean you have to speak all the time or one of the examples we do for our legal team meetings is we take turns doing presentations of CLEs they listen to. And just like you're talking about, I can see them growing, presenting, they get a little intimidated, but it takes a lot to know what you're presenting. You really have to know the material. And so it's a great exercise. Plus, only one person had to listen to that CLE, and everyone benefits from the high-level summary. So.
Right. So let's take that one step further. That's awesome that you're doing that, right? I always say, try not to cover what someone can see, because someone seeing it is a much quicker acknowledgement and understanding than listening. By the way, our brains process visuals faster than auditory. So do it that way, or even go to Loom, or another technology, right? Something that captures, just like you said, if they have to do a presentation, why not try it on Loom, and then anybody can watch it on their own time. There's certain things I think we try to cover together as a team, forgetting that half the people on there don't need to see it, will not learn from it too. And so again, it's respecting each other's time, being productive about things, and making an impact. So people want to come back to that meeting next week and the following week versus complaining about meetings. So that's one thing, is doing more productive meetings, letting somebody else present each portion, using your system to show the information versus you talking. That's a big one. Another one on the buy-in, and again, these are all correlated. It really is like a web. Performance reviews. This seems to be the time, I don't know why. This seems to be the time of year everybody wants to do them. And I think because they tie it into compensation. I'm not a big fan of doing once a year performance reviews. I believe, again, that the staff should write up their own goals, their own responsibilities, their own compensation. Like, they should write everything. I call it a life career mission statement, and they should even write their own personal goals. And then they should present that to their manager to refine, and then to touch base on it once a quarter. So here's the question. How does that tie into getting buy-in? You're hearing them, you're respecting their wishes, you're giving them positive feedback, you're empowering them, and by them writing, they're getting the dopamine hit of, wow, I do a lot. I'm accomplishing a lot. There's like a zillion reasons why this works. I just don't want to get into all the science.
No, I'm loving it, because I think a lot of the lawyer brain, we don't think like what you're saying. Okay, so I think we'll those are open ears. We're soaking it up, because you're right. I think sometimes we're like, well, I don't really want to know what your personal goals are, because what if it's not involving staying at my job that I have here,
or making $1 million. Well, listen, you're in the law profession too. Putting things into writing has its pros and cons. So maybe it has nothing to do with the inability. It's just how your own profession, right?
Yeah.
But if somebody puts it in writing, a lawyer feels like I have to honor that. That's not true.
Right. And I think that's why we would feel a little weird by that whole, why tell them what we might be thinking if we're not sure we're going to do the thing, like that's you said earlier, because I could see us be like, like one time I remember asking, like, what, extra perks, what's the fancy word, what are the, not like PTO and insurance, like, what are the things you would want in lieu of like salary, for example, like benefits. That's what I'm trying to say. And I was a little afraid to pull them, because I was like, well, what if I can't get it to them, and then they're like, oh crap, I just opened that Pandora's box, and now they want that, But I think the flip side is a lot of like what you've been saying. It's like they were heard, you asked them, you opened a dialogue, some of that good stuff.
Yeah. So when you land on them and say, hey, we're going to make a 3-system change next year, it's massive, they're with you. They're like, fine, I trust that person, because they heard me, they responded to me on other things. They're correlating how they feel about other things in the business or how they were treated to that moment when you're asking them for a very big ask. That's how it works.
Wow. So there's a lot behind all of this, because you're So I think a lot, because I think sometimes when we talk about this, we're like, write down your systems and write down what happens in order, and then make sure somebody owns it and stuff like that. But there's, there's the human element, there's the automation and tech element, and then the operations change with the tech, and then the humans have to operate, and then you need that critical thinking. You need to evaluate. We can't just do things because it's always been done that way, and there's a lot to all this change that's happening.
Yeah. And you just saying that, that's what makes a great leader. To acknowledge to the room, to the team, and say, when we change this, it changes that process, which changes maybe our profitability and clients or realization. To say all that to them and then to go, it's a lot, jackpot. You have them now.
Yeah.
Because you're acknowledging this is overwhelming. We need to do it for this reason, aka benefit.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I'm with you. Yeah, I think that we try so hard to look strong and to be strong and to lead through change and not show that we're cracking or it's hard. And I think that well, I can tell you, the young people will call you out on it every day that you're lying. They don't seem to have a problem with that. So yeah, if you look too put together, they're actually not going to trust you.
It's right? like too many good reviews. They're like, something's fake. Yeah.
It's not real, right? Exactly. So yeah, I'm trying to think. There's so many other things, and I know we talked about this in advance. It's just a running theme around change. I want to give the leaders just a little breath here, though, because when you're listening to all this, it's like, what do I take away? Like, what is something that makes my world easier? So we've talked about delegating in meetings, letting somebody else present. We talked about using systems to tell us what's going on, so we don't have to actually verbalize it. We talked about sticky notes, like you said, and drawing pictures and mapping things out as a team. There's a new thing I want to throw in that's fairly new. Well, it's not new. It's just being talked about a lot more. This thing about protecting your time and using, like you do, you have an appointment scheduler. So do I. I don't know anybody that doesn't these days, but I do remember the day when they didn't exist. We forget to also watch our energy levels. And now I'm learning about dopamine levels and deficiencies from being on electronics and how that ties into energy. So operationally, really important to block out time. I don't want to put you on the spot, but I know you're good at this. So like, how do you block out time? Because I have my own way.
Yeah, on another episode, we were talking about blocking out time from operations to consult days to internal days to working on the business. And also one of the things I've been doing is like not listening to anything in my car when I'm driving for the 15, 20 minutes from point A to B, just to let myself listen to myself, I guess, and just like things come to me. Just sort of like how, like when you maybe in the shower, maybe stuff comes to you, you're like, wow, eureka, listen to your subconscious or something like that. No, I truly agree with the energy levels and just how important it is, especially if you're very like client facing so much or in management or presenting. Like, honestly, I'm doing a lot of presentations on a weekly basis. It takes a lot of energy. I think I saw that on your bio. I think you help the Reiki industry. I don't know if you do Reiki or anything, but like that's one of the.
I do it and I help it.
Okay, cool. And I got into that a lot more this last year and a half. Actually, originally was researching self-care from one of my first books, and then I'm actually in a course right now. I actually didn't tell many people about that, but I'm like learning more and just really trying to be calm and cognizant of my energy levels, because I know it impacts so much of what I do. But I think that's a really good point of keeping tabs on that in your professional and personal.
I mean, listen, and again, I didn't mean to put you on the spot, and I didn't know you were doing it, and I love that. I do it every other week. I go for sessions, and when we're energized, we're more open to change. So
Mm.
let me flip it around. I'm a leader. I'm running a business. I'm putting on my team, hey, there's going to be this change coming, or I'm thinking about this change, and they can't digest it. That may be something that has nothing to do with my presentation skills on it.
Mhm.
The
Yeah.
way I'm pre-selling, it might be that they are absolutely fatigued or flat out. And so I don't know where the line is drawn. I'm not an HR employment. This is, more the world of law space, but there is going to be this tipping point where we can say to people on teams, like, this is what I do for me to
Yeah.
reset and to energize myself so that I am open mentally and physically to the change. Is there anything that you might want to do? And maybe I can make that your perk,
Yeah.
your benefit.
Right. And I think we like just one example, like we're so zoomed out, like sometimes there's like, can this should be a phone call? Like sometimes my team like schedules a Zoom and I'm like, why? We have phones. Like we could just I already know this person.
I know what you look like.
Yeah, exactly. Like and then I could go walk and talk in my in my neighborhood in my office and I can, and that helps me out too.
I think we did that when you and I we at a
Oh, that's
Zoom, and I
right.
ended up being on the phone. And we're like, this is awesome.
This
Like,
is
it
so
was
much
like a
better.
It's not that
That's
we don't
true.
want to see each other. You're totally right. And by the way, that's another thing. If you have, again, listeners, if they have remote teams, right? We're always on the Zoom looking at each other. Guess what screen sharing does? It makes us into little thumbnails. Now we're not looking at each other, trying to read the nonverbal. We actually calm down a little bit. So
Mm,
it's not rude. It's okay. Like all of this plays in again to change, acceptance, hearing it, adopting. It's all tied in. But again, it's all tied in optically. I don't know about you for Reiki, but my eyes are closed. I give my
yeah.
eyes a huge rest during Reiki.
Yeah. No, definitely. No, me too. And I know when you start closing out, but like that, I saw so many different ads about dopamine. What's it called? Detox. I don't know. It was all the rage. I don't know why I'm getting targeted for that, but anyway. But like, but maybe that's the new thing. Everyone's like, how do we get off screens? How do we not doom scroll or whatever they say, and just like chillax and get out in nature.
Yeah, I'll tell you the last, so you can wrap up. But operation. So I just listened to something. Bamboo HR had this great guy, Scott, Scott Bird, and actually, I think I'm going to have him come speak at a conference that I'm helping with. And the long and the short is, he talked about your dopamine deficiencies, and he actually has ADHD, and he's in
Mm,
his 50s now, and he just discovered it, even after being an expert in the field, like all these things, right? And so, finding your levels, finding what helps and what kicks back. For me, I'm going to cover all my monitors with the special blue light filters because
mm,
it will actually calm down the rate of dopamine deficiency. Because
mm.
I'm in the business of transforming businesses. Oh, I'm talking change all day, every day, right? And yet I have my own business to run. So there are some quick tricks that are going to come out, and that's like one of them is the glasses are good, the monitor filters are better.
Okay. Well, that's a good tip. Okay, so rapid questions. What's your superpower?
Relational complexity, taking complex multiple things and putting them in the right sequence and order.
Awesome. It's actually a trend amongst a lot of guests. I think it is a really important superpower. Good to know. What is like a podcast, a book, or something you're just like, I love, I definitely need to share to the whole world, whether it's recent or it's an old favorite.
Yeah, two. I got to go with two. I'm sorry.
That's
How
okay.
to be second. How to be second is my latest read. It's about being the COO or just second in command. And then the other one is the neuroscience 5 4 3 2 1. The Five Habit by Mel Robbins. How
Oh,
to
I
switch
was
your
just
brain.
really, I was just like reading about something about her and like one of
Well,
the
she has left them. Yeah,
yeah,
her
yeah,
new
yeah,
book just
that's
came
the
out.
new one, but that's an old
Yeah.
okay. Yeah, I was watching like a video about what that 5 4 3 2 1. Okay, cool. Well, okay, that's a sign I need to like listen to that one then. What is your favorite board game or game?
I didn't. I'm going to say Candyland because I don't have to think. Sorry. I like the colors. Let's move on.
I played that when I was a kid with my grandpa, but okay, we'll let you pass on that one. Okay. And what is a habit that you think has contributed to your success?
Um, Reading about the brain, the mind, the heart, the gut, learning
Awesome.
why I am the way I am. Yeah,
That's awesome. Oh, and back to your ADHD thing, I think a lot of business owners do have it and are undiagnosed and everything. I actually put a whole section in my book about it because I mean, even a relative was diagnosed later. Like sometimes what people are finding out is when their kid gets diagnosed, then they find out they have it. That's
that's
what's
right.
happening. Yeah.
That's right. And they take one of their kids' pills and they're like, wow, this really works great. Okay, I guess I have it. Yeah. So terrible thing to
So
do.
how can people, any last thoughts and how can people find you?
No, I just think what you're doing is awesome.
Oh,
And
thanks.
if they just Google my name and biz ops, they're going to find me.
Okay. So Jen, Jen Goldman,
Yeah.
Goldman, Biz
Yeah.
Ops. All
And if you just do my virtual COO, if you can remember that, you'll definitely find me. All you need
right.
to do.
Awesome. So we talked a lot about buy-in, management, change, a lot of the science behind some of this and like visualization and just sort of like even small little tricks and tips on how to do it. And just, there's so much to this. We'll probably need to do a part 2 at some point because I think a lot of law firm owners don't, we just think about, operations list and who's doing what and ownership, but we don't really think about the science behind it and how best to get that buy-in. But I tell you, so many firms are making big check changes and just changes in general. And so it's good to know the reasons behind all of this. Well, thanks so much for joining us. And thanks everybody who's listening. We'll see you next time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to the Power Up Your Practice Law Practice Management podcast. I'm your host, Ruby Powers, and it's been a pleasure sharing this time with you. If you've enjoyed this episode, please take a moment to leave us a review, tell someone else about us, and we'd love to get this podcast shared with others to reach more listeners like you. Don't forget to subscribe to our newsletter for exclusive content, tips, and updates straight to your inbox. And exciting news, our book, The Power Up Your Practice, is out and available on Amazon. It's packed with strategies, 25 chapters, to help you elevate your practice and achieve your goals. So join us next week as we dive into more advice and insight on law practice management. We'll see you next time.